Welcome back to Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance podcast, featuring Blue Skye Financial founder Rebecca Irey. Before we get started, like and subscribe so you don't miss another episode. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Henry Harrison podcast, Entrepreneurs, Business, and Finance. Today we're very lucky to have Rebecca Irey with us, and she is the founder and one of the leaders of Blue Skye Financial. And she has some things that she'd like to talk about regarding that company, and she's a repeat entrepreneur. She's had another business, at least one, that shows up on LinkedIn in the past, but I think she's comfortable with her home now. So we want to hear about it. Hello, Rebecca.
Hey, Henry. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
If you will, please tell us what you're doing now, maybe personally and professionally, but mostly on your company, Blue Skye Financial. I know you're a mom as well. That's why I bring that up, because we just talked about that before the call. And I know people would like to hear about it.
Of course. So Blue Skye Financial, I founded Blue Skye in 2017 when my husband became ill. So we had been business partners since we were too young to drink that long, but he became very ill. And so I was left on my own. I started my working life in finance. So when that happened, I came back to my first love and founded Blue Skye, incorporated in 2020. And here we are, halfway through almost 2026. We have a focus on retirees. I have a special passion for women because life throws us women curveballs. It throws all of us curveballs, in fairness, right? It totally does. But I think there's something to be said for women. We do a lot of caretaking. I'm the mom of 7. I have 6 grandchildren now, and the world doesn't give you a warning shot when your life's about to be turned upside down. So we spend a lot of time caretaking for our kids and sometimes our older parents or our spouse, and we tend to save less, we make less, and we live longer, which is not a great combination. So I have dedicated now a good portion of my career to serving women entrepreneurs, moms, whether you have a W-2 job or not. I think entrepreneurs are fun because maybe you find this, Henry. Do you find that entrepreneurs are bad planners as far as retirement?
Sure, in many cases, they may have a lot of their money tied up in their business, and something could happen to that business.
We're rainmakers, right? That's what we do. If you're anything like me, like I started my first business when I was 12. I was in finance. I was in medical. I had a record company. I was a chef for a while. We do all the things. And because you're so diverse, you don't steady put money away for your own future. We're terrible. We're terrible at planning for ourselves because we'll sell another house. We'll start another bit. We make money. That's what we do until life hits you. And then either you don't want to or you're not able. And so that puts us at an actual disadvantage later in life because we are so good at what we did early in life. We got to plan. If you don't fail to plan, you plan to fail. I always stumble on that one, but I think it is true.
You don't know where you're going, then you don't know how to get there or what it looks like when you do. That's another one.
Exactly. Yeah. All those things, all those truisms that we don't kind of know, but we know it's true.
So probably a lot of people in the show will have financial advisors, I hope, or if not, they should call you or certainly get one. But revolves quite a lot about establishing priorities and planning. And that at one point I had my license. So that sits above actually where you put the money, like what stocks or what portfolio.
Yeah.
So
let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Let's put money away and then decide. Let's dedicate some money to the plan, and then we can have the fun of where do we put it.
Yeah, you said that better than I did. A shorter version. And then that ties in with probably all sorts of things, how much money they have, if they're starting from zero or starting for a lot, if they want to leave it for themselves, if they have parents that they need to take care of and all. So you have to get to know them personally and their goals and probably hopefully not pull them out, but discuss those questions with them.
Yeah. I think there's the 2 sides of entrepreneurship, right? When you start your business, many of us, when we start our first business or even a repeat business, you're all in, right? Every dollar gets plowed back into your business and you're working all the hours and wearing all the hats and you're like, saving. Why would I save instead of planning it plowing it back into my business. And that's a discipline, right? To say, no, and we all know the phrase, pay myself first. I'm going to pay myself first. I'm going to that's a discipline, right? And then as you gain success, and I'm sure that you've experienced this, Henry, where the more successful you get, all of a sudden you get to the end of the year and your accountant or your CPA hands your tax bill and you're like, I made that much money. No, surely I did not. That cannot be my bill. That cannot be my bill. And so then the table turns a little bit where you say, okay, now I'm successful. I have regular revenue. How can I maximize that? How can I utilize tax advisory? How can I utilize things like the Augusta rule to lower my taxes? How can I start my own self-directed 401k? How can I have my own HSA? How can I have my own deferred compensation plan, set these things up for myself so that not only am I planning for myself, but also my silent partner in every business I've ever owned, the IRS, is more of a minority partner. That would be ideal. A minority partner if it's the
And
IRS.
people that do make a lot of money or a little bit of money comparatively, they don't always save either. They bought a house and their mortgage is a form of savings, but they expenses come up, and I can say this because I got relatives that are doctors, but doctors, they say they're some of the worst. They they work very hard and they're not as good as savers, and they don't think as much about money. They think about medicine. It's
Right.
good when we go to see them. But I've heard that about doctors. My family members are not that way, but they've said, and I've read that from just associations trying to help doctors plan
Right.
better. People, professional athletes, they have a trouble too because they make money for a short period of time, and then what?
I think, and I wouldn't say that there are many benefits. I would tell you that I'm pretty unemployable. I haven't worked for anyone else since 1991, long, long time. And I don't think I could ever work for anyone else again. I'm a Texan. I'm a woman who's no, I couldn't possibly. I have to be what, when, where, and you're going to tell me when I can stop? No, you know that's not going to work. But the benefit that W-2 employees have over sometimes, and this is one of the very few, is that it's a default, right? You have a job, you have a salary, and here's your 401k. Fund that thing. It's easy. Where for an entrepreneur, it's a discipline. I have to carve out this part. Not only do I have to carve out the money, but now I have to figure out how to do all this on my own. How do I maximize it? What things do I just go to Vanguard? Do I just go to Fidelity? What am I going to do? How do I do it? It's not just just put your money there. And for many W-2 employees, that's how it is. So having the discipline to plan for yourself, because there will come a day or a season, even if it's just a season where you're like, I wish I had $1 million 401k or a $5 million 401k so I could just exhale for a second while I'm considering what my next adventure will be. Because people who are truly entrepreneurs, I don't think there's probably a saying out there, old entrepreneurs and never retire. I don't know what they do.
Or die or something. What was that saying? Yeah. So you had a background in finance. You had that very difficult time. I'm sorry about that with your husband. And you went and started a company, and now you've got a pretty large group of people there and must have a lot of clients. But you didn't on day one.
No,
What was that journey like? Must have had a
it,
lot of happy clients and referrals.
we have some happy clients. We're really blessed to be. When I came to this, because of how I came to it, I think all financial planners who have been at it for a certain amount of time, we are a cautionary tale. I'm a cautionary tale, right? Why do I do what I do? Because I've had the experience of not having it done. So as a child, my dad was a rancher in South Dakota. That's where I grew up. It's holy territory. If you've never been north of the Black Hills, it's beautiful country. I couldn't live there because it's too dang cold, but go in the summer. It's brilliant. You can't even get cell phone service still in places in South Dakota. It's crazy. Anyway, so I grew up there, but I grew up during farm aid, right? So my dad is this entrepreneur. He knows crops, he knows cattle, 4 generations of my family, but he didn't know the rules of money. And when things went sideways on the ranch, he didn't know what to do. And so we lost the ranch in the 80s and we moved to town. And that was my first lesson of, hey, there are rules to this game. So that had a real impact on me. And when I came out of college, I went into finance, met my husband, and we had kids and had other businesses and did things. But then when my husband got sick, I was not yet 45 years old. I was homeschooling 6 kids. And I don't know if you know any men like this, Henry, but my husband was the kind of guy who didn't like to go to the doctor. He always said to me, I don't need anybody with a white coat and a degree to tell me I need to lose 20 pounds. Baby, I already know that. And I'm like, fair. I don't like going to the doctor either, but he hadn't been feeling well for a while. And I made him go to the emergency room. And the doctor took me out of the emergency room an hour later and said, whatever you have to do, figure out your life. Your husband will never check out. He was in complete liver failure. It was like, it's a miracle that he's still with me. He's a miracle walking. 2 years later, he came back home, somebody else's liver now. So, and I realized at that point that I can be as much of a rainmaker as I want, I think, but I thought I had time. And I think that sometimes that's what entrepreneurs, that we think we have time, right? And suddenly life throws you a curveball and it's not theoretical anymore. It's personal. It's about me and my legacy and my kids, and not only just legacy, but how am I going to keep my business partner is not able to be my business partner anymore? How am I going to do this? So when I started Blue Skye, after I caught my breath, that was a big part of what I wanted to do. Was life doesn't give you a warning shot. And sometimes it's enough of a change that you think you have time. And I hope you do. I hope we all do. But sometimes you don't. And how are you prepared for that for yourself? That matters. And that's what we do.
Of course, there's the time value of money. So the longer that you put it aside, then the more it works for you. And people don't always think that.
And here's the thing, when you're young, right? And it's been a minute since I was young, but here's what I did, right? What's the
You
first
look
thing?
great.
Oh, thank you. The first lesson you learn, the gurus will say, first thing you need to do is you need to have an emergency fund. That's what you have to do. Put money away in it. That's what we're all told. Yes. And then what happens? We have an emergency. And then we spend the money from our emergency fund, which puts us back at step one to funding our dang emergency fund. And then something happens. And so now I'm on the hamster wheel of emergency funds. And I never get to the time value of money can work for me, because it's not going to work in my emergency fund, right? That you have to get beyond that place. And so I will tell you, I think that the financial system that worked for you and I, it's not going to work for our kids. They have to use traditional tools in non-traditional ways, because prices are growing way faster than income, unless you're an entrepreneur. And I'm blessed to say most of my kids are, and most of my kids who are not work for my kids that are. So, so that worked out. Yay.
Now, what was the journey like when you were a kid? Owning a ranch is entrepreneurial. Did you think that one day you would be an entrepreneur, or was it you and your husband talked about that together, or how did you?
When I was a kid, I was like 12, my very first business. So very small, 1,000 people in my town. I think it might've been 2,000 when I was a kid, and it's less than 1,000 now. It's shrinking. When I was like 12 years old, I saw the county newspaper. This is my very first business. And in the back of the newspaper was a little tiny ad, and it said, we'll teach you how to make thousands of dollars. Send us $1 and we'll send you the instructions. I'm like, I have $1. My allowance is $2 a week. So I did. I sent them $1, and they sent me instructions on how to put little ads in county newspapers to get people to send me $1. And then I would make copies of these little sheets and send them off. And so my dad came home one day, and our mailbox was full of these envelopes from all of our people he knew, like neighbors. And he's, what is this? Wolf Incorporated. Wolf, that's my maiden name. So I was like, I don't know. What do you name a company? I'm going to name my last name. That's what I'm going to do. What is this? I'm like, I started my own business. And people were just sending me dollars. He was mortified. He was mortified. You have to give all this back. I'm like, no, I'm going to send him the package. That's the deal, Dad. You don't understand. So it was in me in a really early age. Like, how can I do this differently? I watched all my friends hustling at the local restaurant, and I was just, I think Yeah, I was too lazy for that. I'd rather just have dollars in my mailbox. I just wanted dollars in my mailbox. So that was
And
my very first business.
that is a pretty neat story. I can't
Yeah.
say I've heard one like that.
Back in the day, you didn't have Facebook. You couldn't run Facebook ads. There was no Facebook. There was no Google. There was no, you had a county newspaper. That's what I didn't even have a city newspaper. I just had a county newspaper. So that's what I did. It
How
was
did you
my
end
very
up
first business.
in Texas? What was the journey like to down? Because you were in, I see Minnesota for a while, and then but
I was.
Austin for quite a while.
Yeah. It's a sad tale. And I think maybe, hopefully, some entrepreneurs can resonate. My husband was a native of Minnesota. And if you've ever known Minnesota natives, they think there is no better place than their own home state. Minnesota natives are very loyal humans. However, not a super friendly business environment, not super friendly. The state income tax is very high, the business tax is very high. It's not super friendly for business. And being from South Dakota, happy wife, happy life. I was not happy. I'm like, why do we have to pay 2 hours down the road? We wouldn't have to pay state tax. So in 2012, on the ballot was a state income tax increase, a city income tax increase, and a business tax increase. And I said, come on. And we lost all of them. Taxes went up on all three levels. And my husband looked at me and said, I guess they don't want us here. And I said, I don't believe you'll let us move until you tell your mother. So the election was November 5th. And Thanksgiving of that year, he said, Mom, and she's a dyed in the wool Democrat. She never voted red in her whole life, ever. He said, Mom, we're moving to Texas. And she went, I never thought you'd move. And I'm like, I never thought he'd move either. I thought I was going to be stuck here my whole life. But it got to the point where it just didn't make financial sense for us anymore. You're charging us for the privilege of being somewhere, but you're not supporting us as business owners. You're not giving us what we need to thrive and employ people. And you're kind of tripping us around every corner. So we came to Texas and we love it here. I love it here. Love it. Love everything about Texas, except for the fire ants. I don't like them. I kill them mercilessly
Sure,
all
we
the time.
just had, so I'm in Dallas, as we discussed, and a guy that worked for me, actually the producer of this podcast, moved here and picked up, tried to, he had the fire ant experience. If you're not familiar with it and you don't know what they are, that can be a bad experience.
Yeah, fire ants are terrible. They're terrible. And the other thing that I realized when I moved, what's a chigger? They don't have chiggers up north. Let me just tell you something. Chiggers, this is not a thing in the North Country. North of the Mason-Dixon, there are no chiggers. That's a Texas thing. I'm like, what is happening? I'm not even bit. I'm just itchy. Oh, it's terrible. My
So
initiation.
you have some other things which I think are pretty neat. Transpersonal psychology, a couple different Thomas Edison and the California Institute for Human Psych
Human
kind of
science.
cuts off human
Yeah.
science, okay. So and that's not too long ago, really. Uh,
No. So I was quite rebellious as a child. So when I went to college, I soon after got pregnant with my oldest. So didn't finish. So my midlife crisis was not only to finish my bachelor's degree, but also to go all the way to my PhD. And I did that. I didn't want to do it in anything reasonable because it was a midlife crisis, right? So my initial thought was that I wanted to get my PhD in comparative religion. But what I realized very quickly was here in my home country, Midwest, flyover territory, right? Comparative religion means you're comparing Islam and Christianity and Judaism, which is like they're all from the same book. And I'm like, nah, I really want to have the whole deal. So I found this little school called the California Institute for Human Sciences, and I studied all the things. It was fantastic. Buddhism and Sikhism and astrology. And I would have made fun of people like that. I would have been like, yeah, did you get a degree in underwater basket weaving too? No, I didn't. But it was so fascinating and it was so different from numbers and just logical. It was fantastic. I'm so glad it doesn't have anything to do with my business, but It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I have a medicine circle on the side in my yard now. All my kids are like, Ma, what are you doing? I'm like, I think it's pretty cool. Native American, indigenous stuff. I love it. I love it all.
Fantastic. And then you were an advocate for adoption. You want to talk about volunteering as a foster parent, and then also
Sure.
the inside team volunteer for prison ministries. And
I
these are
did
not
that.
short-term things either. These were a decade long, maybe still, still doing them.
I don't do them anymore, but I did for a long time. So when you have many children, one of the things as a mom, you worry. We worry. Women need safety. And I deal with this every day where women are like, no, I need to be safe. I need to know that I know. And the husband, and this is my husband too, he'd be like, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And the wife was going, no, I need to know. I really need to know. I'm terrified. It's not going to be okay. So you got to balance those things. So we had a bunch of kids. And one of the things that always frightened me was that if something happened to my husband and I, that my kids would be split up because nobody could take them all. So we started fostering, not to adopt, just to foster sibling groups, because typically in the foster system, bigger sibling groups will be split up between families because nobody can take so many children at a time. So we would take in 2, 3, sometimes 4 kids at a time. In addition, the first time we fostered, we went from 6 to 10 kids overnight. We had to get a different vehicle. It was crazy. But my heart was that the kids, they're going through a hard time anyway, and that they would not have to go through that hard time without their siblings. So we did that for about 15 years. We had 37 kids in and out of our foster home. And except for one set, everybody went back to their own family, which I felt like was good. Sometimes parents have a hard time. There's some hard stories. Those kids went through it, but we got a chance to love on them and take care of them for a while and then send them back to their forever family, it was a beautiful thing. We really enjoyed that. And then we did prison ministry, and that's fascinating in Texas because Texas has private prisons. Not every state does that. You're Texan too. I worked at Lockhart Prison, and I would go in for the whole weekend. I tell people now, how would you like it if your financial advisor said this? They come in and I'll offer people coffee, and they're like, are you not going to have coffee? I'm like, I did get addicted to coffee in prison, which is true. I did. I don't like coffee, but I got addicted to coffee in prison when I was serving there because you can't take in soda, right? You can't take in cans of anything because God only knows what they'll do with the cans. So the girls in prison would make me coffee with all kind of cream and sugar, and God only knows what was in there, but it was delicious. So I'm like, I only have prison coffee. If it's not prison coffee, I probably don't like it. But I did that for a long time. We'd go in for 3 days at a time. And it is shocking to me what people will choose to do when they don't feel like they have options, and to come alongside people and say, it doesn't have to be over. You can still learn, you can still come out, you can still start something on your own. You are not beyond redemption no matter what you've done. And interestingly, when my husband got sick, he is in 40 days after he went into the hospital, they found a liver actually from a prison that he had volunteered in. The guy knew he was going to pass away, and he's like, I'm never going to be able to repay my debt to society, but I can do this. I can donate my organs. And so that my husband actually has a liver from a gentleman who is in a prison where he served doing prison ministry, which is crazy to me, but that is how it happened.
Well, you mentioned underneath there poverty elimination too, because and that ties right in with, I think, your passion and goals at this time in your life is to help people become as financially secure as they can.
Yeah.
And certainly poverty, like you said, when people feel like they don't have options, they can make bad decisions, more likely to make bad decisions, feel desperation. And
I think that financial education in America is abysmal. We don't teach people how to. The amount of foster moms that I talked to that said, if I didn't have my benefits, I couldn't make it. I'm like, yes, you could. You just don't know how. You just don't know. You can get there from here, but people get so used to just having it, right? Here it is that they don't realize how much of their own power they give up. And sometimes it's people making really bad choices, but also it's people like us, right? It's people who work hard their whole lives and put money away, or maybe they don't because they're entrepreneurs and more rainmakers, right? But they get to retirement and they're like, I don't know how to do this. I know how to save. I don't know how to distribute. I don't know how to harvest what I've saved safely. So I know I'm not going to run out of money. That's a thing. Financial education is terrible in our country, not just for folks who are making bad decisions, for all of us. We're taught to just put your head down, save as much as you can, don't touch, it's going to be fine. Really? And then when you get to retirement, how do you decide? How much do you take? How aggressive are you? What's the sequence of returns? How does reverse dollar cost averaging work? All of these things, and we're not prepared. So
I
that's
think
what we
they
do,
would be
prepare people.
prepared if they come meet you and work with you and your team, which they also look terrific from what I've read online and meeting you. Congratulations for
Thank you.
living your dream and a midlife crisis of education. That's a very healthy midlife crisis. Any time I mention a good life crisis, I'm going to say, you know what you need to do? You need to go get your PhD because I
There
met
you go.
Rebecca and that's what
There
she
you
did.
go.
I think they might be surprised to hear me put it that way. No, no,
I
not buy
mean,
a car. No, don't buy a car.
no.
Save that money. In fact, go to Rebecca and take the money you buy the car, give it to her, and then go get a PhD.
I love learning new things. I think that's part of us as entrepreneurs. Yes, we'll dive into something new with our whole heart and go, okay. And maybe it's a long term. And my children will tell you they have had 18 different mothers over their lives because I was always into something else, right? I had my hot yoga phase, I had my vegan phase, I had my we're not going to watch Disney phase. I did all the things and it was different all the time, but because I was always learning something new. And I think that growth mindset, that flexibility of, okay, life is an adventure. Money grows on trees. It is made of paper. It really is. We can accomplish anything we put our minds to, but not if we get stuck. And that, because financial education is so terrible, I see this all the time where people are just like, there's so much pressure to make the perfect decision with regard to retirement that people just don't. They just don't. And they forget that not doing anything is still doing something. You're still making a choice. Not choosing is still choosing. It's just not choosing well, right? But we get overwhelmed. And I think if there's anything I could say is that look at it like an adventure. The odds are, with rare exception, and I would say that you need to vet people, right? I'm a certified financial fiduciary. I say this to people, many of my clients I've never met. I serve families all across the country. And I say to them, I want you to vet me, right? Look at my Better Business Bureau page, look at my Google reviews, look, because not everybody you meet online is a good guy. I wish they were. Like the humanist in me says, everybody's doing the best they can. They have the best of intentions. That's not really true. I wish it was true, but it's really not. So we have to be careful. Look at people's background, look at their certifications, make sure that they're healthy. But if you have somebody that you vetted, it's actually hard to screw it up. It really is. You can be too, don't put it all in Bitcoin. Please don't. I know it's tempting. I get it. Please don't do that. Don't. I love a little. I'm a crypto fan. I'm not opposed, just not everything.
That's a good point to wrap up. Is there something else that you would like to add on? What a great
Oh,
talk we've had.
I think that if people could remember to have hope. And here's what I'm going to say, and I hope that you agree, Henry, is that the financial industry is so not about the products. It's not about crypto or mutual funds or annuities, or it's not about any of that. It's about the relationship that you have with your advisor and your advisors, right? Your team of advisors, your financial advisor, your CPA, your insurance person, all of them need to be your estate planner, all need to be working off the same playbook. So I frequently say I'm the quarterback and they're the team owner, right? You just call the play. I'm going to run the play and I'm going to call in special teams when we need them. But that relationship, that's more important than the product. The product is secondary. You can always be in and out of products. It's fine. We can do that. This is what's important. So find a good advisor. I hope it's me. Call me. BlueSkyFinancial.com. Call me.
BlueSkyFinancial.com. And you work with people all around the country. You're located in Austin, Texas, but that is not a limiting factor in the world we're in the US. And hey, really thank you for coming on and we'll stay in touch.
I would love that. Thank you so much, Henry.
Thank you for watching Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business and Finance podcast here on YouTube. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can also search Henry Harrison Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.